We will be starting shortly. All right, so moving to issue 3, distribution of funding. So developing a fair formula for the distribution of funding is a critical issue. The board has put forth 4 options based on 2 distinct distribution formulas: to distribute strictly according to the number of students in a particular city by population, and to divide the funding equally between the cities by city. Option 1 is 100% by population. 2, 65% by population, 35% by city. 3 is 35% by population, 65% by city. And 4, 100% by city. So begin open discussion. We'll start with Howard.
As the city of Howard, we are a more traditionally moderate city, and thus options 2 and 3 of my mind would be most desirable, but I feel that any compromise may be made on this one. Thank you.
Are you able to state your name, please?
Sterling Morris.
Thank you. Go on to Bill Valley.
Yeah, I think they need.
Pass.
I think it's just should be until they're ready.
Yeah, they passed in the cycle.
Hello, Joseph Benedict, Mayor of Osgood. And as for Osgood, we would be willing to compromise on number 3, 35% by population, 65% by city. Because we are a more medium-sized city with a smaller population, and it would be disadvantageous for us to go more population than city. And it would be more disadvantageous for any cities like us that are more that are bigger than the population of their city. It wouldn't be just disadvantage to us, it would be disadvantage to those that are similar to our city with the same population size and issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Benedict. Mayor Nelson.
Benjamin Nelson, Mayor of Anderson. We are willing to compromise on option 2, 65% by population and 35% by city, primarily because the city of Anderson is a more densely populated area. Therefore, we would be getting a more beneficial amount of funding if we did so more by population than by city. And yes, and we are our community would like for that option as well. So yes, we are willing to compromise on option 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll now begin open discussion, not in a cycle anymore. Mayor Maxon.
Colton Maxon, Mayor of Bill Valley, COLTONMAXSON. Regarding the distribution of funding, I believe the traditional method is the best, which would be by population, and our compromise is to distribute the funds 65% by population and 35% by city. That's all I have to say. But we would prefer 100% by population, for our city, personally for our city and for our community, that would be the most beneficial. But as a whole state of Nevada, I understand that the situation for every single city is not the same. And it's important to note that regarding funding, because funding plays a huge role in education. So does culture, so do teachers. All of it plays a huge role. And we understand that. That's our position.
Thank you.
Elijah Figures, Assistant Mayor for Anderson City. We would be willing to do 100% population. We feel that it is the best to equally divide the funds between cities based on need. If you have more of a population, you're going to need more funds to support that population. So I feel this is the most fair way to divide based on the needs of our state as a whole.
Thank you. Mayor Morris.
Sterling Morris, Mayor of Howard. I would, as a smaller city, we at 100% population and 100% city, neither is truly a winning option, seeing as there is no compromise. Good politics is built on compromise and the fact that everybody gets something and that no one gets everything. Thus, I think that 65% population, 35% city, or 35% population, 65% city is the most equitable option all around. And I think that either way will benefit any party. Thank you.
Sorry, just 1 second. So I'm just going to make a comment real quick as, of course, as Secretary to Governor, Graydon, as I previously stated, I am Graydon Proby, my bad. Ultimately, when it comes to this, I think one thing you have to take into consideration is, of course, population. This is what this is mainly about. So you have to understand if it goes by city, that means that it would just go by how much money is needed by the city rather than the per student spending. So both the governor and I would like to make sure that is kept in mind for this. Another thing to look at here is, of course, the issues of city funding. We said previously, of course, per student funding within this state is a bit under 12,000. I believe it's about 11,738 from what I remember, trying to be exact here. So yes, just from the governor and I to keep that in mind when it comes to population density and population city. Thank you.
Mayor Maxton, floor is yours.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor. Colton Maxton, Mayor of Bill Valley. I really appreciate that, Mr. Proby. That was a good comment. And the more we look at this issue, I realize that dividing this is the equity that we are dividing the money, 100%. I feel like we cannot do 100% by city under any circumstances. This is not good for the state of Nevada. A small city such as Nye County, for example, that's not a city. A small city such as, can't think of any small cities, but a small city that has a population of 5,000 people and a large city that has a population of 100,000 people, for example. These are really small numbers because cities are in the millions, this is just a hypothetical situation. Anyways, it's just impossible because that city with 5,000 people would be getting equal money to that city with 100,000 people, and that is completely unfair for that city with 100,000 people, and that city with 5,000 people is getting way too big of an advantage, and this is going to skew education majorly. They're going to have way better equipment, way better an educational experience, newer desks, newer laptops. This is unfair for the state of Nevada, and for that, I think I stand with 100% by population, and I'm not willing to negotiate that.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay. Mayor Benedict, floor is yours.
Hi, Joseph Benedict, Mayor of Osgood. So we are sticking with the 35% by population, 65% by city, because of, for example, Northern Nevada is much more deeply underdeveloped, and as that, that would mean that for them, population would be a little bit better and help them a little bit more, as they are a little bit of a smaller city. Other way around, that city would be a lot more advantageous for them as less population being underdeveloped versus like a southern side city that is a lot more developed. There's money goes through them, like Vegas and Reno, which are much more deeply developed in comparison to northern Nevada. So for them, that would be better for them to go by population, which means that the funding through city can be more equitable in distribution for both, as one will get the advantage from population distribution and the other will get the advantage in their city because of the development in those cities. And let's see. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll go ahead and go to Mayor Morris.
Sterling Morris, City of Howard. If the city of Osgood would be willing to compromise at 65% population, 35% city, we can all benefit. Mayor Maxon has removed himself from the equation by saying that he demands 100% and will not compromise with anyone. As course of such unreasonable action, I say that we should try and figure out how to make this work among the three of us. Now, personally, I am open to either 2 or 3, but you two obviously have differing votes. I say that if Mayor Maxon desires to run for 100% and 100% only, let us work it out among ourselves. Thank you.
Mayor Nelson.
Benjamin Nelson, Mayor of Anderson. I would like to present to everybody, and especially the Mayor of Bill Valley, that 100% population is not a desirable outcome when you think of the entire state of Nevada. When you think of the entire state of Nevada, like what the Mayor of Osgood is presenting, that a lot of the northern cities are underdeveloped and do not have such a large population. Therefore, by going with option 2 of 65% population, city, you would be getting the funds based off the students in your population, and also funds to supply the fact that you do not have many students in your population. So there would be an equal, obviously not balanced because it's 50-50, or not 50-50, but there would be a revenue coming in to help the fact that you do not have a large student population. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to give Howard and Osgood a chance to answer before Bill Valley, since you guys answered twice already. So, Mr. Lopez, floor is yours.
Cesar Lopez, assistant to the mayor of Osgood. We deeply respect our sister city's offer. However, we cannot find ourselves in the position to accept option number 2. The revenue that runs through the southern cities like Vegas is immense in comparison to our northern revenue streams. They charge taxes on casinos, they charge taxes on high-end restaurants, they charge taxes on high-end housing, things that they simply have and are able to profit from, when the northern cities have, well, if you can even call them cities, have spent their time trying to develop with minimal funds for education, for building, for development in general. I respect the offer that's been made, and I thank them for offering it. However, 65% by city ensures that we have a chance to develop, a chance to mean something in the state of Nevada and contribute more taxes to the state. 35% by population still leaves a good amount over to the southern cities where they can enjoy decent funding while also enjoying the many tax streams that they have generated through their development. In the name of a more equal Nevada between South and North, I believe that funding primarily by city will benefit the state as a whole in comparison to continuing this hierarchical development where the South succeeds and the North suffers. Thank you.
Mayor Maxson.
I would, Mr. Governor, I would just like to say that
Apologies. I take that back. They only had one say. That's my fault. So, Mayor Morris, the
we
floor is yours.
sacrificed our time when it was going around, Mr. Governor.
And that's a choice you made. I'm sorry. That's how the rules are.
Any comments, Mr. Morris?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Governor. As a medium-sized city, Howard can see both sides, but we cannot resolve without cooperation. And I would implore that we try to find the happiest neutral ground where everyone can grow and succeed. I am very happy to hear the seriousness with which the growth of the North has been taken and the seriousness with which their funding has been also taken. I think that the healthiest option is still compromise, and that I am the willing third party for whatever may be figured out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Maxson, your time is now. Sorry.
Governor Vogel, I apologize for interrupting earlier. I understand the situation, and the state of Nevada needs compromise. It needs us to work together as the mayors of important cities in Nevada. I'm willing to compromise for 65% by population and 35% by city. Although it should be noted that the cities of Osgood and Howard are benefiting extremely from this, because population plays a huge impact on the cities themselves. We have a larger city, and we need to be able to support them in the educational system. Just because they're smaller cities doesn't mean they should get more funding. That does not make sense. There are things that you need to pay for that scale with population, such as Chromebooks, utensils, desks, chairs. There are a lot of things that scale with population. That includes more teachers as well. They have less of a population, and that means they should also get less money. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Figures?
Elijah Figures, Assistant Mayor for Anderson City. Bill Valley brings a lot of valid points, although I do not completely agree with their stance that smaller cities do not deserve funds. They still need funds, but larger cities do need a lot more. Not even only towards school, towards police, towards... Oh, it's towards school specifically? Oh, my fault. But yeah, but we do need more funds for larger cities because there is a larger amount of children that need to be brought up. And that does take a considerable amount of more materials. So honestly, the most equal way would be 100% by population, but we are also willing to do 65 by population.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez, floor is yours.
Cesar Lopez, Assistant to the Osgoodian Mayor. The whole point I'm trying to make is that the North has been disadvantaged for decades. We have not had the casinos, the high-end housing, the high-end restaurants, and the booming business that the South has. We haven't. And because of that, our growth is stunted because of the unequal distribution of wealth that was decided upon all long ago. Today, I ask that change. The North has spent its life scraping by, trying to ensure its students can try to get some form of technology, trying to make sure that our students' college tuition is paid for, trying to ensure that our cities develop at least somewhat by the end of the fiscal year, while the South continues and continues to grow. The South does not need more money from the government. They produce so much by themselves, so much taxable revenue that can easily pay for anything else that they have no reason to be asking for the majority of the revenue from the state. Perhaps the decision has already been made, but I plea with my fellow sister cities to reconsider. We have no means outside of what little we already do have to develop more and to pay our fair share of state taxes. And if you are willing to invest in us, if you are willing to invest in the underdeveloped regions of Nevada, we promise you, we will pay you all that you give us back and more. And so for this reason, I ask that we deeply consider option number 3, which is majority goes to city, and of course, some left over for population. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Mayor Morris, floor is yours.
Thank you, Governor. I am, once again, Sterling Morris, and in light to Mr. Lopez's remarks, he said that there was a lot more revenue down in the South, which may be true, but that is independent revenue. taxable, yes, but that's independent. So we're, as taxable as that is, it's still not enough to the point where we need that we can simply cut off funding to the south. The truth be told is that we still need funding. And you said that the north could barely pay the state taxes when a state tax is truly just a percent of income. So I, once again, implore that we work out a compromise. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mayor Morris.
I would just like to make a quick statement. Very sorry. Great and Proby, of course. Just like what Mr. Morris has said, yes, those revenue streams are independent. I would like for all of you to consider that. The education issue is existing in both the South and the North. And a large amount of those profits that are made within southern cities like Las Vegas and sometimes even northern cities like Reno are mainly independent and are not taxed, of course, because they are profits. So I would like for everyone to recognize that as well, that a majority of those profits do not get taxed to begin with. Thank you.
Mayor Maxon.
Colton Maxon, Mayor of Bill Valley. Thank you, Mr. Governor, and thank you, Mr. Proby. I would like to first say that the city of Osgood does not want what's best for Nevada. It's very obvious that they want what's best for their city and their city only. They have, as discussed in issue 2, they have top students and they have succeeding schools. Funding is not what they need, funding is what they want. It's very obvious that the bigger cities have a higher population that they need to support. They need more teachers, they need more technology, and there's a lot more things that they need to pay for that these smaller cities don't need to pay for. It scales with population. It should not be split equally by the city or be dealt with a majority by the city. The city of Bill Valley is willing to compromise and only do 65% of the population and 35% by the city. We're willing to compromise and do what's best for Nevada, but it doesn't seem like Osgood wants to do that. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time, Mr. Vogel, Mr. Governor Vogel, and Mr. Proby.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Nelson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Benjamin Nelson, Mayor of Anderson. While the Mayor of Bill Valley made an aggressive stance, I would also like to point out that when it says population, it does not mean that because of the population and great population that we have in the South, the North will be ignored. The North will be recognized for their population and will be given funds according to that population. And because of the compromise that it seems the other of us cities are willing to make, is they would be getting 35% based off of their city. So they would still be making and getting that money for their city revenue. So we would just like to recognize the fact that they would may be making money based off their population and not based off of the South population. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Lopez, floor is yours.
Cesar Lopez, Assistant to the Osgoodian Governor. Thank you. First off, I take deep offense to the idea that my interests are not with the state of Nevada. I moved here when I was 6 months old. I've spent 16 and a half years in this education system and in this state. We are all in this together. have no doubt about that. Now, regarding the compromise being offered, I know we do still get money, but my complaint is that 65%, the lion's share, goes to the cities who already have an adequate resource to actually run and develop their city. If they refuse to take advantage of the revenue that they could have in order to better develop their city, better teach their students, better run their governments, that is their business. But we can't do anything at all. Now, it's true. We do have a relatively good education system. But today, I do not just stand here as an assistant or as a representative of Osgood. I stand here for the North, for the small towns who never got the chance to be something they could have been. What I propose here is, for lack of a better term, an investment. We are willing to give 35% of the revenue still by population. We will ensure that a good amount of it goes based on which cities are the biggest, but we also want to make sure that additional revenue is allocated by city, not just for us, but for the cities who need the money to teach their students, the cities who need the money to grow and be all they can be. If you've ever seen a map of Nevada from space, and you ever look where the lights come from.
Mr. Lopez,
Yeah?
I think that's enough.
All right.
Thank you. Mayor Morris.
Thank you. Sterling Morris of Howard. I appreciate the time given Governor Vogel, and it seems that after much debate and not a lot of progress, we have come to the conclusion that 3 parties are willing to accept option number 2. I would petition that we move to voting as soon as the governor decides is acceptable. Thank you.
Do we have any of the other cities that are willing to move to voting? Okay, so by a 2/3 majority, we shall move to voting.
I don't think we have to vote if you 3 have your stance on option 2, correct? So option 2 it is. Only time we really need to vote is if we want to decide if it's time to voting or see how split it is. But since it's 3-1, there's no need. So now we will move on to the next issue. Number 4, adult and higher education. Spending for higher education in Nevada has increased considerably with the addition of a dental and law school to the existing business and medical graduate programs in Nevada. Policymakers statewide have sought to make Nevada self-sufficient through adult education, and the board has recommended 4 funding levels for adult and higher education that will be covered under this grant. First option, $60 million. Second option, $40 million. Third option, $20 million. And fourth option, no funding. Floor is open. We will be starting with Bill Valley for the first cycle. Remember, if you skip your cycle, that doesn't mean that we go back to you. It means we start open debate. Bill Valley, what is your stance?
Thank you, Mr. Governor. Colton Maxon, Mayor of Bill Valley. Adult and higher education is of utmost importance for Nevada as a whole. We want more educated adults going into the workplace, and we want more people to, first of all, be educated, and second of all, bring success to Nevada. Currently, we are ranked one of the lowest in education. Bringing more colleges brings more educated people into the state. That is totally a side note, though, and has nothing to do with the argument that I'm presenting. What I'm presenting is that we want people to be educated, which requires lots of funding. Therefore, I'm standing for $600 million going towards the adult and higher education program. this can go towards building colleges, and specifically community colleges, such as the College of Southern Nevada, and expanding them because they lack a lot of funding, and I believe it's extremely important. There's also community colleges in Northern Nevada, and this benefits the city, or this benefits the state as a whole, and not just any city particularly. That's my stance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to remind everyone too that you're not convincing me, you're convincing your fellow cities. So making sure you're addressing the cities, because that is eventually who you're trying to negotiate with, just a reminder. The camera is there. I'm just reminding you. Mayor Morse,
Thank you, Governor.
apologies. Apologies, we're in the cycle. Osgood, your turn.
My apologies, Osgood.
My fault. It's your turn. We're going in the cycle. And then after the cycle's done, you can either pass or stay your position now. Pass? Okay. Anderson.
Like the mayor of Bill Valley stated, we believe that adults in higher education is of utmost importance. And with graduate programs in newly formed graduate programs in the city of Anderson, we believe it is even more important now. Therefore, we would also like to push the notion for option 1 of $600 million towards adult and higher education funding. Thank you.
Mayor Morse.
Mayor Sterling Morse of Howard. I would like to offer my sister cities the reminder of the fact that were we to take $600 million and put it into a higher education fund, that would in turn detract from the K-12 education, which is universally required. We all can accept the fact that there are different walks of life, and not all of them pass through a university. Some, after the K-12 experience, which is needed, go into the military to serve and protect. Some go into trade schools to serve and to help their fellow citizens. And the fact of the matter is that $600 is a large sum. In fact, it's too large. I would fully support $400, or better yet, $200 million, due to its nature as a medium amount, which is enough to support a college, but is not too much to take away from the K-12 experience of education that is vital for every person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. My assistant would like to say something.
Yes, hello, Graydon Proby once more. Just as a clarification, we are dealing with the numbers of 60 million, 40 million, and 20 million. I just wanted to get a, on our paper, it is labeled 60, 40, and 20.
1 second.
All right, my bad. We shall figure this out then. After clarification, it is indeed 60 million, 40 million, and 20 million. We are very sorry for that. It has been changed to such. We are very sorry for that. So we shall commence open debate at this point. So yes.
Mr. Dubon.
My name is Ivan Dubon, Mayor Assistant, IVANDUBON. I'd like to say that on my sister city's point, when it comes to people not always attending colleges and going to militaries and trade schools, only a small percentage of people actually get accepted into military if they're enlisted. And if they do go to a academy route, the service academies acceptance rates are that of an Ivy League school. And for other things, there's also digital college as well, which this money can go towards, which would further our economy and further the workforce, why we want to push the 60 million, which help the workforce of Nevada and prepare.
Thank you. Mr. Figures?
Hi, Elijah Figures, Mayor Assistant from Anderson City. In regards to my Howard statement on how not everyone goes to universities and how we're taking funds from trade schools and from other things of that sort, in the proposal, it mentions not universities, but higher education. And trade schools and things of that sort are also considered a higher form of education. So funding would be going to those as well. And for their point of us taking money from the K through 12, we are not necessarily taking money from that program. We are allocating new funds towards this form of education. Thank you.
I turned my mic off, sorry. At this time, we will be having secession. We have to go listen to our speaker, a great speaker. So break, and we'll come back to this afterwards. Thank you.
This committee has entered a recess. We will be starting shortly.
Yeah. May I be reminded of the stances that the two cities that spoke on took?
Those two cities being Anderson and Bill Valley. So if we can get a reminder of your stances on this position, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Just say the number. We'll start with Mayor Nelson.
Benjamin Nelson, Mayor of Anderson. We are pretty sure we left off at 60 million for ours. So option 1, 60 million was ours.
Thank you. Mayor Maxon.
60 million as well.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mayor Morse.
The city of Howard is aiming for 20 million.
Do you have any reasoning behind?
I plead the fifth.
Sorry, but just as a reminder, that will be like a time that you talk, by the way. So just to let you know about that in case of any confusion. So yes, thank you.
Osgood.
The city of Osgood at this time is seeking a worth of 20 million, option number 3, I believe.
Option number 3.
Thought I heard something. We don't believe that while it is important to invest in higher education, we believe that there are greater priorities to move this money around with. For example, our deeply failing K through 12 education system. At the very least, UNLV and UNR remain solid in the country. They aren't particularly awful. They're affordable for Nevada citizens, and UNLV itself is number 2 in the country for recreation. I mean, not recreation, I apologize, hospitality. It is important to invest in these. However, I don't believe it's prudent, nor does the city believe it is prudent now, to start investing money as of yet. We do believe a small amount is warranted, of course. 20 million is a perfectly acceptable amount to invest, but we don't want to be spending as much as 60 or 40 million, if at all possible, because we believe this would be better spent saving the K through 12 education system in Nevada. Thank you.
So it seems right now we have 2 on 60 and 2 on 20 pretty firmly. So is anyone willing to compromise or negotiate possible options to try and get things done, or are those hard set in stone? Mr. Figures?
Elijah Figures, Mayor Assistant from Anderson City. I believe we would be willing to negotiate if for 40 million. So.
Mr. Morris?
40 at Sterling Morris, Howard City. 40 million is less than desirable, but it is better than a constant standstill. I think that you should also consider perhaps dropping to 20, but that is also an unreasonable request of me. I think that we could be open to discussion.
Mr. Dubon?
Bill Valley is open to 40 million.
So that, I believe that's 3. We can either, what I'll do is I'll take a vote for further debate or to vote now. So those, just mayors voting. Those in favor of continuing to debate, raise your hand. Those in favor of voting now, raise your hand. Okay. Well then, we have 3 that are for 40. Am I mistaken? 440? Okay.
Can we just get every city to state that, like their positions, just for like tallying votes? Actually, never mind, that's fine.
Does anyone object to 40? That's what their stance was? Okay, 40 it is. We gotta get some stuff done. So, moving on to number 5. Reads Rural Funding Initiative. A major gap in the Education Act concerns funding for rural schools. Senator Harry Reid has fought vigorously for such funding, and this is an important issue for Nevada as a whole. Of the $250 million grant, the board has recommended 5 different funding levels for Reid's rural education program. Solution 1, $60 million. Solution 2, $45 million, and Solution 3, $30 million. Yes, Osgood, I'll give you 1 minute to conclude, and then you guys are starting. Less than 1 minute, actually. 10 seconds. I think that's fair because I didn't give other groups like a minute.
Yeah.
So. All right. Osgood? Mayor Benedict, the floor is yours.
Yes, Joseph Benedict, Mayor of Osgood. We are willing to start at the 450 million option 2. Yeah, what is that? Because we would like to make sure that the urban area is properly represented. Or, yeah, the other way around. Sorry, the rural areas are properly represented, and that the urban areas still get funding as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And so again, on my end, it says 2 digits. So for the sake of debate, I don't think it really matters, does it? So we'll just stay with what you guys have since it's 4 against 1. Just wanted to clarify that. So then we'll move on to Anderson.
Benjamin Nelson, Mayor of Anderson City. I would just like to say our stance is option 4, 150 million. And this is mainly because as a community and as the Mayor of Anderson, this issue of urban funding does not apply to us. While we still think it is important, it just does not apply to us as much. So we would like to start at option 4, 150 million. Thank you.
Well, we thank you a lot for that. On our end, we would like to clarify that we do not have 150 million. 15 million. So if we want to just continue with that, that is totally fine. I just think, just for the sake of clarification from our side, that we do not have those numbers. Okay, thank you.
So is that what you guys have? Do you have a 4th option? You have 5 options.
We currently only have 3. Would you mind telling us what those 2 other options are, please, and thank you?
Mayor Benedict.
Joseph Benedict, Mayor of Osgood. The options that are on here was 600 million, 450 million, 300 million, 150 million, and no funding.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So you guys took stance of 150 million, correct? Anderson?
Correct.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and move on to Howard. Floor is yours.
Sterling Morris, Mayor of Howard City. We stand with our sister city of Osgood at option 2, 450 million, due to the healthy balance of funding of rural and more metropolitan areas.
Thank you, Mayor. Bill Valley?
Colton Maxon, Mayor of Bill Valley. Thank you. Thank you, Governor Vogel. Rural funding is important for the state of Nevada because there are a lot of rural areas in the state of Nevada. I would like to just first and foremost say that. There are a lot of places in northern Nevada that are more rural than southern Nevada. And the city of Bill Valley is not a rural area. And because of this, the less money we allocate to rural areas will benefit us the most. But we are willing to compromise and go for Osgood's 450 million to 300 million, that range. Because I feel like it's good to allocate money into rural funding. And that's my final stance. Or I'm willing to work, but that's my stance that I would like to end on before we go into open debate. Thank you, Mr. Governor.
Thank you. I assure all of you, I did not look at points. I didn't even see it. I was just looking to see the total amount that was granted. So then we'll go ahead and start open debate. Start with Mayor Morris.
Thank you, Governor. Mayor Morris of Howard City. It seems as Osgood and Howard are aligned at option 2 of 450 million. And it seems as Mayor Maxon of Bill Valley would also be interested in a compromise of 450. It seems as though we have a fairly solidified perspective on this. So if everyone agrees, I motion to the vote.
Unfortunately, there is no motions. Mayor Nelson.
We would like to open debate for Anderson at 300 million. Just because, again, we, as a community and as mayor taking community input, this is not an issue faced by us. So we are willing to take 30 million or 300 million as our stance.
Thank you, Mayor. Any rebuttals? Mr. Song, floor is yours.
Corbin Song, Howard City. I think just across the board, as far as maybe not population distribution, but the state of Nevada as a whole, there are a lot of rural areas that are either underfunded or just do not have attention or priority over the big cities, say like Las Vegas or Reno. And so that's why for Howard, we believe that even though we are a suburban community, we also are kind of the outskirts of the city that have the most interest within the rural part of our state. And among other reasons, the rural areas often find themselves behind in education because they just don't have the access to the technologies that bigger cities like Anderson have access to.
Thank you, Mr. Song. Mayor Maxon, floor is yours.
Colton Maxon, Mayor for Bill Valley. I would like to start by asking, or not asking all the mayors, but I want all of you to ponder this question. So this isn't just a one issue debate, or I'm going to make this more than a one issue debate. There's only 2 issues left. And I believe that pushing money is an important resource for Nevada education. I think we can all agree on this. And Nevada lacks funding for education seen on multiple occasions. I would love for issue 6, which is the voucher program for charter schools, to have no funding as it doesn't benefit our city at all. And going back to this one,
Why are we talking about issue 6? We're on issue 5.
well, I'm making this a multi-issue thing. Is that okay, Governor?
We are not able to make things multi-issue. I'm very sorry, sir.
I feel like these
can-
issues go hand in hand.
We're doing one issue at a time. However, I will allow negotiations for future considerations without regard to an issue. For example, if you help us on this issue, we'll have future considerations for you, but do not talk about the issue itself.
That's exactly what I'm doing, Mr. Governor. May I continue?
Yes.
I would like no funding for charter schools, and for that, I'm willing to push no funding on issue 5, which is the Reed's Rural Funding Initiative.
Thank you. Mayor Benedict?
Yes, Joseph Benedict, Mayor of Osgood. I'd like to say I do not want to push that no funding. I'm pretty sure we all had a consensus that 450 million was fine. So I'm not exactly so sure as to why you're suddenly wanting to push no funding, because we had a clear consensus. Thank you.
Mr. Figures?
Elijah Figures, Mayor Assistant for Anderson City. We would be willing to help Bill Valley and push for no funding for this issue, and also for the next one as well.
Bill Valley, you have one more opportunity to speak. If not, we will proceed to the next round. Mayor Maxon, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Colton Maxon, Mayor for Bill Valley. Thank you, Governor Vogel. I really enjoy compromise with the other mayors for the state of Nevada, because compromise is compromise is the most important initiative that we should have. And whether it be, issue number 6 is a really big issue for the city of Bill Valley, and I apologize for making that apparent in this one. I did not mean to make that the main talking point. However, for issue number 5, whether it be supporting it for 450 million or no funding, I need issue number 6 to be no funding, because the charter schools initiative, charter schools are privately owned, semi-privately owned, and they are a choice school. Public education is by far the most important to me. But going back to this issue, I believe the rural funding initiative, it doesn't affect Bill Valley either way. Therefore, we are pushing that for issue 6 and are willing to work with any city. Thank you.
Anderson, Mayor Morris, I saw your hand first.
Thank you, Governor. I would ask that we remain on topic 5 until we have settled topic 5. It seems that trying to politic for question 6 is a shade hasty, seeing as we are still yet to come to a resolution on 5. Although we appreciate your offer to work with anyone who will, that sounds pleasant. The option of 450 million is still viable and honestly the best option from several perspectives, seeing as opposite sides can agree to it and that we both understand that that is the better option. I am more than confident in my answer, 450 million, and I believe that Osgood may feel similarly. And it seems as though the city of Anderson has strong feelings about no funding. So we can get 3 people to work together and 3 people can be happy, or we can force the governor to make a decision because we've come to a standstill and screw 2 people over.
Real quick, I'd like to add that you are allowed to talk about future considerations. That's permissible. You just can't talk about the actual issue itself. So I don't want to hear anything about the issue 6. I don't want to hear about charter schools or anything about issue 6. All I want to hear is, if you help me in issue 6, I'll help you with this 5. That's fine. Those are negotiations. That's supposed to happen here. That's not dirty politics. That's how we can come together and get a 3-1. I just don't want topics going on and then debating issue 6 during issue 5. So with that, we'll do Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. Cesar Lopez, Assistant to the Osgoodian Mayor. We are somewhat appalled by the Mayor of Bill Valley's decision to ignore the compromise that was reached quite literally a few moments ago and instead bring this to a standstill. The city of Osgood is prepared to accept the amount of $450 million as agreed before, or even potentially with a little bit of debate, $300 million. But for Bill Valley to simply disregard the art of compromise in exchange for future interests when we had that option to settle this issue now, we find this inappropriate and illogical, for lack of a better term. And we sincerely hope Bill Valley reconsiders. Thank you.
Thank you. However, it's not inappropriate. It's how negotiations go. That wasn't their final say. So, Mayor Nelson.
Benjamin Nelson, Mayor of Anderson City. We would like to move from no funding to option 3, $300 million, in a attempt to compromise with Osgood. And the reasoning behind this, and the reasoning behind we were pushing these lower numbers, is because the Rural Funding Initiative will cut into some of the money that goes to the more urban areas. Therefore, we would not appreciate if all the money that would be, or a good chunk of the money that would be allocated to all the cities went to mostly the rural areas. However, we are willing to compromise and agree that they get a higher number of the share of this allocation of money, since we have the entertainment policy or the entertainment business in place in these urban areas to fund ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Maxon.
Colton Maxon, Mayor of Bill Valley. City of Osgood, I really don't understand what the problem is. We all want what's in the best interest of our city and for Nevada. And I was just making an offer previously, and there's nothing to be offended over, first of all. I've expressed that I'm willing to work with anyone. I want to push no funding for issue 6. Whichever issue is more important to you, it's kind of evident that issue 6 is more important to you because you're unwilling to work with no funding for whatever you want the most in this issue. For the rural funding initiative, Osgood is a very rural city. I think we can all agree to this, as seen as on your stance from previous issues and your explanations. I would even be willing to go up as high as 600 million to do what's in best interest for your city, so that you can help me do what's in best interest for my city. But also, 450 million, I'm willing to work with that deal as well. I'm trying to help out each city individually and my city individually. I did not mean to offend anyone. I hope that's acceptable. I'm just playing politics at this point, as doing what's in best interest for my city as their mayor so that I can get reelected again. I hope all the other mayors understand that. Thank you.
Even? Mayor Morse?
In order to come to a compromise, I'm Sterling Morris with the City of Howard, and the City of Howard is willing to, for question 5, discuss, and we will remain at option 2, which is 450 million. But for question 6, we are willing to run no funding. That is my offer to resolve question 5 right now and to consider 6 afterwards. Thank you.
Mayor Benedict?
Mayor Joseph Benedict of Osgood City. I suppose that's, sounds like we are now in agreement on the 450 again. Does that sound correct, mayors? I say we push this to a vote. Thank you.
So 450 for Osgood, 450 Howard, 450 Bill Valley. All right, that issue is settled, 450. We'll be moving on to our final issue, number 6. I like the compromise. Voucher program for charter schools. Voucher systems, also known education vouchers, are typically certificates issued by the government, which allows parents to apply towards tuition at private or charter schools. While a highly contested issue, this proposed voucher program is slightly different and is aimed at increasing the enrollment at charter schools nearby. Option 1, no funding. 2, 50 million. 3, 100 million. 4, 150 million. And 5, 200 million. You guys have the same? Cool. Well, we will start with Anderson this time.
Benjamin Nelson, Mayor of Anderson. It sounds like from negotiations on the previous issue that some of the cities are already in agreement of no funding for this issue, so we would like to make our stance option 1, no funding as well.
Mayor Morse?
As Sterling Morris, Mayor of Howard City, no funding would be an acceptable option, but we would also accept 50 million. Thank you.
Mayor Maxon?
Colton Maxon, Mayor of Bill Valley. Thank you, Mr. Governor. We would endorse no funding greatly, as it benefits our city a lot. Thank you.
Mayor Benedict?
Yes, Joseph Benedict, Mayor of Osgood. Though very much undesirable to come to a conclusion, I am willing to take the 50 million at the lowest with Howard. Thank you.
So I've heard compromise from Howard for no funding and stances on no funding. Would we like to debate more or come to a conclusion? And so we're at an open debate now, but it seems like there's been a conclusion, so I'll leave it to a vote to continue debating or to finish now. So those in favor of debating more, raise your hands. Okay, those in favor of voting now, raise your hands. Okay, so we will take our final stance. So final stance from Anderson, no funding. Final stance from Mayor Morris and Howard, no funding. Final stance from Bill Valley, no funding.
Correct. We push
Okay.
no funding.
That's 3-1, no funding. I believe that's done, right? Wait, hold on one second.
Just to say for a moment, everyone's doing good. Everyone's keeping decorum, but just as a reminder, to please state your name before you speak, your first and last name. I know we're not running into any large issues of it, but just as a reminder to please state your first and last name before you speak. If we have anything else going on past this point, I do not believe we do. I mean, I believe we don't have anything else going on, but if there is anything else, please state your first and last name for the record. Thank you.
That concludes the mayoral debates. There is a gift shop, and we can also quietly watch the other halls. Thank you for your cooperation and patience and getting stuff done. It was fun.
This session has now been closed. Actually, Mr. Morris, do you have any questions?
On our totals sheet, I'm seeing a round 1 and a round 2 of voting. I just want to be sure that I understand. This is complete round 1, that's everything. Thank you.
So what I understand from the other paper that I had, there was a different total amount of points. Is it the percentage of how many points we get out of our total, or is it how many points we get?
This session is now closed.